Now, let's get started. I'm very excited to announce Jill Amos is our keynote speaker for this to start us off on our annual meeting. Jill has experienced an incredible journey that is an inspiration and a great example of self-empowerment and mutual support, all core principles of LifeRing. As a woman of her own, with her own mental health recovery journey, Jill deeply understands the path firsthand and champions others facing mental health and substance use challenges. From her work expanding peer recovery programs to her current role at C4 Innovations, Jill's dedication to human connection and peer support is shining above all. So thank you very much, Jill, for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and drive. So if you want to take over.
Yeah,
Hi, Jill. Do you mind if I
hi.
spotlight you?
Go for it. Whatever works for me.
Thank you so
Hi.
much.
You'll have
Hi.
to forgive the frizzy Oklahoma humidity hair happening on my head right now. We had so much rain and flooding and tornadoes and good times last night, so I'm energized today, catching all that electricity. But thank you all so much for letting me be a part of this. This is really cool and exciting. And I don't know, like, I think from what I see, everybody's from all over the place. I see some folks, like, I just saw somebody from Massachusetts. I've been working with them a lot lately, which is cool. So that feels like second home. Okay, let me get my slides going here. And how's that look? Is it pretty? Pretty enough? Okay, cool. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about self-love, self-compassion today. Get a little squishy on a Saturday morning. Um, I was looking at kind of your itinerary and how there's going to be kind of some discussion about this. So I thought, hey, if I can help kind of set that up and give a little, Saturday morning breakfast food for thought, I'm happy to do that. Oh, eggs, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, um, I discovered poached eggs, but I had them do them hard, like fully, like well done poached eggs. So it say like when I go to restaurants and stuff and they hate me, I think, but like I don't know, I really like them. But I'm like I'm inventing. It's like the Jill egg, I've decided, but it's not like squishy and runny in the middle because I got nervous about bird flu. All that I worry about too many things. Anyway, it's good. Give it a try. I give you permission to copyright my eggs. Copyright breach. Okay, so digging into more self-love, leaving our eggs behind. I'm going to share a little bit about me. I know Sue kind of set me up. This is kind of a little bullet point of my background. I've worked in the behavioral health field for quite some time. Um, I've loved every minute of it. I've worked primarily with folks who had severe mental illness at first, and then leaned into folks who are in recovery from substance use disorders or substance use. I don't even like the word disorder anymore, even though I know it's one of the clinical terms they have us use. Um, but yeah, one of my favorite jobs that I got to do for the state of Oklahoma was certify and train workers around our behavioral health system here that were in recovery that wanted to give back, and we call them peer recovery support specialists here. And that you can have mental health, substance use, trauma recovery, whatever. Everybody's welcome, and they give back to the folks that are in our systems. And I really love that job. It's been my favorite. And now with C4 Innovations, who I work for now, they let me do a lot of subject matter expertise on peer support and recovery and squishy self-love and all that good stuff. So I've had a wonderful career. Definitely has followed along with my life's journey as well. Um, I've had, divorce, I've had mental health challenges, I've had, starting over multiple times. You guys know that story, I'm sure, remaking ourselves to kind of land it with whoever we're meant to be. Um, so yeah, my most recent big chapter of my recovery has been since 2020. I think a lot of people are probably in a new chapter of rebuilding kind of who we are in a forever changed world. Um, I have a new diagnosis since then of PTSD. I did a lot of intensive supportive work for state employees during that time. Lots of grief, lots of isolation, a lot of things that I witnessed that kind of left its mark. But I'm definitely, 5 years out, feeling so much better, more like myself, more like a new version of myself. Um, I'm very greedy. I currently have two therapists and a psychiatrist. I had three, but I decided to let my partner, he got to have one of my therapists for himself. We've been through a lot, working together through everything, raising a kiddo that my stepdaughter, who's working through her own pretty intensive recovery as a young adult. So yeah, we are we're all kind of in a new world. But yeah, with C4, I have learned so many new things about different ways we're looking at recovery around the country. So I've got to work with different states and learn new philosophies, learn different modules of recovery. This is my first encounter with LifeRing, and I'm like, who is this? What is this? Like, teach me all the things. So I'm very excited to learn even more. This won't be my last encounter with your group, to learn more, and because I have a feeling a lot of the philosophy is going to really resonate with my own heart. So I'm very excited. But yeah, I kind of refer to myself, one of my recovery tools, as I kind of dip into spirituality, and I like to take bits and pieces from different spiritual philosophies, whether they be religious or not. I like to take different pieces, but I call myself a striving Bodhisattva. If you've studied Buddhism, they have these spiritual beings that are enlightened called bodhisattvas that are, they become enlightened or whatever, and then they decide rather than to ascend and, get out of the cycles of life, which I don't know where I land on all of those details, but they decide to take their message, what they've learned to help others, take the gift that they've been given to help others. And so I think maybe I could be the Okisava, like find ways to like keep taking care of myself, keep learning, keep growing, connecting with people, and then share what I've learned along the way. So I kind of made that word up. It's not really a word, but I'm coining it just like my eggs today. All right. So I always like to start when we're thinking about a topic with looking at what's getting in the way. Like we always got to go negative first, right? Our negative brains. Let's look at the hard parts. A lot of folks in recovery have a very difficult time with self-love and self-compassion. I know I do. I can help anybody in the whole wide world, and then the minute I make a mistake or I feel insecure or I feel little or whatever, like I'm self-butt kicking in my head. Um, and I used to think that meant I was broken. Like, why can't you just be positive? What's going on in your head? And I've learned so much about, how we work in this culture, how we work amongst each other, the outside pressures that get in our head, that kind of drive some of this negative stuff, the natural psychological processes that take place when we feel threatened. We always will look to the negative first. That's survival. So when we get negative, that's our brain doing as it's designed. So thank you, brain, even though you're making me grumpy today, but thank you. But we're a couple of themes that I've noticed and observed and studied, that gets in the way of folks feeling that they can be safe being self-compassionate. Or I was talking to Sue and Lorraine about, I had a therapist that asked me to give myself a nickname. I have pet names for everybody, like 500 of them just for my dogs. And coming up with a pet name for myself, I went, ugh. Like the idea of like a little like loving pet name, like ew, like that gross, it still grosses me out. But that's very telling, right? That's If that's hard for me to do for myself when I can do it for everybody else, like what's going on there? So let's look at a couple of some things that kind of get in the way, and then we'll dig into the good stuff. We'll leave on a happy note, but let's dig into the dark stuff first. So, without getting too heavy, grief is a pretty big theme in a lot of our lives, definitely in recovery. Anytime we have change, anytime we have loss, even if change is positive, there's still a loss of the old or loss of the familiar or loss of the routine, that can trigger, possibly a need to go through some grieving. We don't do grief well. It's the worst human experience ever. I hate it. I don't want it. You don't know what to do with it. You just kind of feel nuts for however long it takes, and you think you're doing okay, and then here it comes again. And so you kind of do this loop until time kind of passes, and eventually you never get over it necessarily, but you kind of learn to function with it. Um, but it's a funky thing. And it's definitely the process I avoided folks in my field, or I know that folks in my field have avoided, be it workers or folks receiving services, myself included. Um, but thinking about, the role that grief may have played definitely prior to starting recovery journey, and maybe some stuff that's lingering that we're not sure what to do with as we're getting into good places, or as we're maybe even in more sustained recovery. We're having, just some stuff that's we're struggling with. I have a very good friend who's a substance use therapist, and has had some challenges with processing through some grief, some things even resonating from childhood that, like, now that we're kind of in a new place, like, and maybe things aren't quite as crazy on the outside, now the noise is coming from the inside, and what's going on here, and why am I struggling so much? So, the work that we're all doing, and now I wouldn't say the world's a quiet place right now. The news alone will, like, just get me into a tailspin, and, like, first thing in the morning if I let it. Um, but the looking back at the last 5 years and how much has changed and how much we've been through. And some of it has been very obvious losses and changes, and some have maybe been things we haven't had a chance to digest. But just understanding without kind of thinking, oh, I need to grieve. Don't go there. Just understanding the role that grief may be playing in your life. If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you've got some, I have this, like, grumpy, like, angry, resentful raginess sometimes, or I'm just, like, pissy, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? Maybe there's something I'm stuck in that I haven't been able to move past or move in, even let myself feel yet. But it's a big role player in a lot of things. When we are in grief, the acute grief part, if that immediate loss, and then shortly thereafter, we kind of lose. And Megan Devine, the author of the book I cited here, talks about we have a limited bandwidth. Because when you're grieving and you're in all that pain of change, you only have so much bandwidth for the other thing. Like, who's going to remember that 3 o'clock meeting, or the details, for that presentation, or whatever it is you're working on, even filling up for the grocery, doing the groceries with the dishes. That bandwidth is smaller, and that's okay. That's as it's designed. You are in survival mode, possibly, and don't have that capacity. And we only have so much our brain can take on at one time when our hearts are breaking. So again, like, these were things that I learned, and I knew I needed to study this when we went into lockdown in 2020, because I knew I did the EAP management for the state, and I knew I'd be hearing some grief. But really thinking about the role it plays in my life, and being forgiving to myself when I was having that low bandwidth capacity some days, or feeling overwhelmed. Even now, like, ooh, I may be in survival mode a little bit today. Yeah, it probably makes sense that I completely spaced out. I had that meeting, or I completely, forgot that my kiddo had that appointment. So this is all about kind of understanding what may be going on inside of us, so that we can forgive ourselves for being imperfect. Okay. Isolation's been another thing we've struggled with. And social media, although it's fantastic and I love, like, it lets me be here with you guys today, it's not quite the same as when we're flesh and blood and, with folks, and, like, in the presence of each other. Being able to really bounce off of each other's expressions and body movements, and all of those things that we interact as we communicate and as we connect. These are some of the things that are affected. Vivek Murthy was our Surgeon General during Obama, and then during Biden, and I think he's been booted again, but he did a lot of work on the effects of isolation, and wrote a really good book that came out in the beginning of 2020. But kind of talks about the effects that it has even on our physical bodies when we are in absence of others, an absence of connection, and how, while social media, texting, a lot of these things can be great to keep us from being completely in our little caves alone, we're not necessarily always getting those same, like, healthy hormones that we pump when we're in presence of each other that form those bonds. The stress hormones, like when we're together, those can bring things down. That can go even back to our little caveman selves, like when we encountered the saber-toothed tiger and we ran, that fight or flight kicks in, and we make it back to the village and we outrun him. And then we can check in with the rest of the villagers and say, oh my God, you just will never believe what happened to me. and your brain starts to realize you're safe and you've got your community, that's there with you to like dress your wounds if you fell and scraped your knee or whatever. But when we don't have that sense of community, which again, I know LifeRing is definitely a village for you guys, for sure. That does take an effect on our ability to process stress, our ability to metabolize the nutrients and things that we need, um, our ability to, stay out of, I call it binary thinking. My brother uses that term, kind of a computer nerd guy, where it's, you're either with me or you're against me. This is a threat or this is okay. And we're always going to notice that negative first. Again, if I notice a saber-toothed tiger over the butterfly, chances are I'll probably live a little longer. So I'm wired to do that. But when we don't have that village, we don't have that connection, it's a lot easier to feel threatened and alone out in the woods, than when we're together and safe in our village. So cultivating ways of connecting, having our little village, having our loved ones close, finding new loved ones, which I found is a little more difficult in midlife now that I'm not in the bar, like finding, people to connect with. Sometimes I have to get creative. I have a tap dance group that I go to on Saturdays, just to find other little goofy tappy people. So whatever that looks like, and it sometimes can be a little tricky than it was in our 20s. But we can always side message about that. If you have ideas, I'd take them too. All right, so that's isolation. Compassion fatigue. That's a theme I'm seeing. We talk about this a lot in the behavioral health field. When you are helping others and you're just seeing stressor over stressor and hard story over hard story and people in struggle, you kind of start getting like numb and checked out, where it's just like, oh my God, if another person comes to me today with a crisis, I'm leaving, you're like hearing the Meow Mix song play in the background when someone's talking to you, rather than like being able to focus because you're at capacity. But it's a natural part of how we're wired. When we are wired for empathy and connection with others. And sometimes, when there's a lot going on, a lot of stressors, we aren't able to do good care for ourselves to make sure our needs are met. And I'm the queen of when I'm overwhelmed, I just keep taking on more. Like my filter is gone, and then I'm just grabbing and stuffing of all of the tasks. Um, it is really easy to hit this compassion fatigue where I just feel frustrated with everybody and extra frustrated with myself. My self-compassion is gone. I am never good enough and never doing enough and never on top of it all. All these messages are going over in my head. But again, this is a normal function of humans sometimes when we are overwhelmed and we're connecting with others a lot and we've got a lot on our plates, helping ourselves and each other. Okay, so those are the hard things, some of the hard stuff. Let's get into the good stuff. I don't think I have the chat. Let me see if I can get the chat open. I need to make sure I'm watching for questions and stuff too. Byron says he's got a grandfather that was an actual sooner. I have family that has land run land. It's not necessarily my favorite thing to talk about. I've got a little bit of historical shame about that, but maybe your grandfather knew my great or great. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many greats, but maybe they were neighbors. Who knows? All right. So we'll get into the good stuff. Self-love, self-compassion. We're starting here. So Dr. Kristen Neff is kind of an expert on self-compassion. She literally wrote the book. So I borrowed her 3 components. This has been really helpful for me in like facilitating conversation, getting out of my dark places in my head. But the 3 components of self-compassion are the self-kindness. So you guys saw my picture of me and Kaya. She's over here passed out, like head draped off the couch over here beside me. I started thinking about how easy it is for me to take care of Kaya and, call her pet names. I'm trying to see if she's noticing me saying her name. Always making sure she has the food she needs. If she has even any sniffles or anything, like we're right to the vet. Like I have a whole like wave of debt because of pets. I don't even think about it. It's like whatever, charge it. We're getting them done. They're staying comfortable. Um, but the way I feed her healthy food, I don't give her a lot of snack because I don't want her like to get yucky teeth or tummy problems. But then I'll go like just chow down on a big old burrito like when I'm stressed out. Like it's like why is this so difficult for me to do for myself? And so for me, really observing my love for her. She's my first dog, too, by the way, and I was determined for us to be thick as thieves. But as I started to notice our bond and the things that I did for her and the way I saw her health respond to these good things, because she had a few issues when I got her, um, it really made me start thinking about how come I don't treat myself this way, or how can I start treating myself the way I treat my dog? It's like, who's more precious than this? But I struggle with it. So realizing that self-kindness and how to talk to myself, in the way that I would talk to Kaya, how can I turn that inward? The common humanity, again, like everybody does this stuff. Everybody does self butt kicking at some point or another, and probably on a daily basis. A lot of us have a hard time making mistakes or letting people down, um, or feeling like we don't fit in. We tend to turn inward on that. Our culture is wired for it. It's very profitable to believe that you're not enough as you are. Um, so, that's kind of what a lot of things are wired, and it tends to be messages we get from day one that we're not good enough as we are. But all people go through this self-doubt. All people go through these things. All people feel isolated sometimes, probably now more than ever. So that common humanity of it, when we remember, oh, everybody does this stuff. Like, I'm not alone. I'm just a pretty normal person, probably. I'm a little weird sometimes, but overall, probably my weird's like a lot of people's weird. And then the last piece here is the mindfulness. So, observing and bringing awareness to the world around us, noticing our feelings without judgment or trying to suppress them. That's me. I don't like anger. I don't like fear. And I want to like put on my rose colored glasses and talk myself out of it rather than maybe just sit with it. Where is this coming from? What's going on here? Staying curious. In the Buddhism world, they talk a lot about being curious and non-judgment and those things, which again, probably why I've been reading about the philosophy, because I struggle with it so much. But really paying attention to the little moments in the world around us too. Something about it, like noticing the way the air smells, noticing, you know, a flower blooming. Last night we had fireflies everywhere, which I've heard are endangered, and I saw them everywhere. We live kind of on the edge of town, and so there were lightning bugs or fireflies, whatever you call. I call them both, everywhere, and it was just such a little magical moment. Those little things, and it just lifted my mood, even because I'd been like out breathing the muggy air and like sweating and angry and hating the world for it. Um, but oh my God, the fireflies! Like, if I can get out of my dang head, there's a pretty good world out there around us. So this is, and yes, I borrowed Catch It, Check It, Change It from some of the recovery circle folks that I met. I've heard them say that a lot in my classes. It's essentially CBT, you know, the
Mhm.
the the therapy technique to help you like recognize a thought, think through it, and then choose a new action. But I made this little map. This is Jill brain sometimes. So I'm realizing when I'm self butt kicking, and then I may actually out loud go, "Oop, I'm doing it. I'm doing that butt kick thing again." And then I immediately want to go, damn it, Jill, you teach this stuff. Why do you keep doing it? Hang on a minute. Everybody does this stuff. Most people self butt kick. Yes, I get critical about things I'm passionate about, especially when I don't feel as I'm practicing them. But that's okay. I'm human. We're gonna have these moments. So can I rephrase? Okay, I'm not a total screw up because I forgot that appointment. I made a mistake. I mixed up. I'm overwhelmed. Okay, let's see if we can figure out some things, to put in place. Maybe I need a new reminder on my phone. Ooh, maybe it's an excuse for a new organizer app. Whatever I can do to kind of rephrase the way I would talk to Kaya, my stepdaughter, someone who came to me crying, "Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I messed up." Kaya wouldn't do that. Kaya doesn't care. But she's wiser than a lot of us. But my stepdaughter, coming, "Oh, I got an F on this test. I'm such an idiot." I can so easily say, you made a mistake. Maybe we can study next time a little better. That's so easy to do on the outside. Can I think through what I would say to someone coming to me, going, "Oh, Jill, you're such an idiot." Me saying that, like, how can I rephrase that? And then this last little square here, the practice. I don't know when in life I gave up the idea of practice and just thought I was supposed to get everything right on the first try, or it's not even like, don't even mess with it. Like, but we were kids, we practiced, right? We fell down, we got up, we tried again, we enjoyed trying to hit that baseball. Like I sucked at baseball, but I still like playing it. And I was willing to practice, like just for the experience of like what like feeling myself get a little bit better. And I don't know with adults and us having cram schedules and all the things we try to do, like we forget the joy of practice or that some things take this. And again, when we remember that when we are threatened, that binary brain goes negative. So, oh my God, I forgot that appointment. My boss is going to fire me. Everybody probably hates me and thinks I'm stupid. I'm in binary mode. My brain's trying to keep me surviving right now. Okay, I am safe. This is probably not the end of the world. I'm probably not going to get fired. I have a great coworker I can check in and say, okay, in my head, I'm dying alone in the woods right now and cats are eating my face. What do I do? She can say, you know, no, everybody forgets appointments. I forgot one last week. No big deal. Like sometimes I got to borrow that inner voice from the outside. That's okay. It's all still, these are teaching me little things that I hope before I leave this planet, I will have down to an art, but maybe not. I guess that's already me getting into perfectionism, damn it. So I'm just going to keep practicing and leave it at that. Let's not judge. Let's leave it at that. All right. This is what time are we at? And I forgot what time do I need to wrap up, Sue, before I get so lost and excited about all this. Okay. So we'll watch a little bit of Jack Cornfield here. Now he is a psychologist that actually he has studied as a Buddhist monk. It's very like reading his books because I got into the psychology piece of it for work, and that's kind of what got me interested in learning more about the philosophy. But if it plays, oh wait, I need to share sound. I forgot that I probably have to do that. Hang on. I don't mind my little drop down menu is not letting me share sound. Well, it may not. How about I paraphrase? Because I can't get my features to pop up. So he's doing a lecture about again the mindfulness, the non-judgment towards ourselves when we feel strong emotions, the pressure we get from our culture, to judge everything or perfect or be better. Um, and when he met the Dalai Lama back in the 80s, he had a conversation with him. And he was talking about it was all these like psychologists and psychiatrists that were there studying. And he had had a meeting with them and they had said, well, how do you all deal with self-hatred and low self-esteem and the struggle of beating yourself up? And that there was a translator translating to the Dalai Lama who was like could not understand what they were saying. And the translator keeps trying to explain this concept of self-hatred. And it turns out in Tibetan, they don't even have a word for that. Like, that's not even a thing. And how mind blowing it was for me to hear this story that there is a culture, they're probably fairly isolated from the rest of us and our culture, but that don't have they don't have that sense of attachment to identity and being better than others and that competition and stuff. But like self-loathing isn't even like a word. Like I can't even wrap my head around that. But it was so profound to me, and I thought, man, I want to figure out how do I get to that place. I don't know, but I think you could do it anywhere. I don't think you necessarily have to, live in a specific culture or in a specific part of the world. We can all learn some little things about self-forgiveness and self-compassion. Um, but yeah, I will totally share these slides too if you want to go back and watch the actual video, which is probably a little more graceful than my stumbling through. But yeah, that just was such an important point to me to think about. So, as we're self compassioning, that's not a word, but I made it up. We are going to be, maybe tuning into investments into our overall well being. Um, little things. Remember, practice. It's not, I'm going to go run a marathon tomorrow, and if I fail, I suck as a human. I'm going to die alone in the woods with cats eating my face. Like, we, are just doing investments into being loving to our bodies and loving to our longevity and doing what we can. And I know that's a big piece of everybody's recovery. When you started to invest in your overall well-being and started feeling those little bit of improvements, gradually. And it's mind, body, spirit, all of that starts to kind of come along. The social wellness, how we stay connected, because we are not an isolation species. We just don't work that way. So are there small changes we can make? Try something new to get out and about around other people. I work from home, so it's very easy for me to get isolated and weird. So I have to make a little bit bigger of a push in this area. It's not as natural for me right now. So forcing myself to get out of the house every day is the one thing I can kind of do to help me remember there's humans outside of my little blue cave here. Our spiritual well-being, spirituality and religion are not the same thing. Some people can cultivate some spirituality through the practice of religion. There's a component of it there. Maybe not even for everybody. Some folks like the social or political or ritual of it, and that's okay too. But spirituality can also be in enjoying the fireflies and connecting with your goofy ass dog and being together with other people who are also working to make changes. Um, Same thing with the emotional well-being, the things we can do to be gentle and kind to ourselves and forgiving. And again, little bits, little practices, little celebrations of successes. And when we beat ourselves up for struggling, seeing if we can catch that and rephrase it a little bit. Just practice. All right. So research shows 80% of the thoughts we have are negative. Again, that's that survival. Problem solving is linked to intelligence. A lot of times, higher intelligence equals longer life. So if we're negative, it just means we're smarter and hopefully going to live longer. That's it. We're just geniuses when we're negative. Just kidding. I mean, maybe. I don't know. But that negativity bias, again, is a survival mechanism. We've A lot of us have survived some pretty hard stuff. Of course, we're on alert watching for the next shoe to drop. It makes sense. Like we've seen some rough stuff. So I'm on guard. And it is hard to lean in. It's hard to lean into joyful things. I don't know if you guys read Brene Brown or not, but she has a term she calls foreboding joy, where she's like, I can sit there and look at my beautiful child sleeping, and then just all of a sudden in my head imagine them in a car crash or something. Like just like what is that? Like your brain like hijacking the joy because like surely this isn't going to last. That can be a huge trigger for folks that are trying to sustain recovery when they slip. When stuff starts to get good, that can be really, really scary. So just, but remembering these are the processes, the negativity bias, the survival mode, the trauma triggers, those things are getting activated. A lot of times it's not that you suck as a person or you're a failure. Like your brain's trying to do what it's trying to do to keep you surviving. So we connect with our village, we practice, we do these things that help us feel safe and move forward. Mindfulness, I'm sure you guys know about this. I won't get into it too much, but engaging our five senses and stopping to notice a moment. I have a somatic therapist right now that's teaching me when I'm overwhelmed to feel where it is in my body. She sits and just studies all my movements. It's kind of creepy. But like when I like she notices when I'm telling a story and my shoulders start to raise or my eyeballs get big and she'll draw attention to it. Your eyeballs just went big. How where are you feeling that in your body? And it's kind of teaching me to tune in. I'm like, I sweat a lot. I didn't realize how much I sweat. But noticing, the little things, like even when I'm excited, like right now I'm like all clammy palm because I'm excited. Um, but paying attention to our senses, paying attention to the little moments and these things, even when you're overwhelmed, just just stop for a second and just space out and stare outside for a minute. It does help. It doesn't seem like it would, but it really does. So again, with if we're working on self-love plans, if we're working on increasing and tapping into those four major domains, um, just itty bitty steps. You don't have to fix it all right now. That's me. I get pumped up and excited, and then I want to do all the things, and then I fall on my face. Um, so being willing to do just little by little, maybe one area you think you want to fine tune a little bit, or increase, or just invest in little investments, those kinds of things. Thinking through any barriers that may pop. What's getting in the way of me being able to do this? Sometimes I don't actually want to do it. I just think it's something I should do. Should's a real fun word. Should is definitely the like antithesis of self-compassion. I should all over myself all the time. So that word is a red flag to pay attention to. I'm not in a self-compassion space right now if I'm shoulding. Yes, it sounds gross, but that's how I remember it because I'm 5 and I like things that sound gross. It's funny. So yeah, recognizing those barriers, who could help you make these changes, accountability partner. I know that's a big piece of probably what a lot of you guys are doing in your community. Um, we can gently move through this together, I think, little by little. The thing to remember, I meant to change this word to self-love because self-care term is kind of getting gross and overused lately, but it's not a selfish thing. The more I invest in myself, the more I do have to give to others. It's that full cup, right? I met a recovery, she runs a recovery organization and a disaster relief organization in, was it North Carolina? And was helping with some of the hurricane relief there. And she tells her workers, you don't even pour from a full cup. She's like, you pour from whatever's left in that saucer. Like you fill that cup and fill it and fill it and fill it, and whatever's left in that saucer, that's what you can give away to others. That cup stays full. So it is not a selfish thing. And the more I show love to myself, I'm role modeling that for others. I'm teaching others how to be good to themselves and how to be forgiving to themselves. And that's something they will pick up on no matter what comes out of your mouth. People are watching your feet and what you're doing. So the more we role model this helps our recovery community. It helps our kids. It helps, our friends and those around us, our coworkers. It's not something, this self-love stuff's not something I'll do later. I'm busy. Like that ain't gonna work. You'll get sick. I mean, my body will shut me down. It's not self-indulgent. It's not selfish. It's not a chore. Oh God. If it feels like a chore, it's probably not actually self-care or self-love. It's like it should be things that like are feeding into I say that, but then like getting on the treadmill, even though I do feel good afterwards, I'm like cussing the whole time when I get started. But it does feel good afterwards. So maybe once in a while it can be a little bit of a chore. But in general, if you hate it and it makes you miserable, you might maybe pick something different. It's not the last thing on our list, and it is not for the purpose of being more productive for others. I don't fill up so that I can put out. I fill up so I can feel whole. And that self-care, the term self-care has really been weaponized lately, especially in the workplace. Do all these things so you aren't using your sick leave. And it's like, that's not what this is about. So if you hear those messages, that's bullcorn. All right. So that's the end of that presentation. I am totally open for questions or chitter chatter. I wanted to make sure not to go too long. I know you guys have got a full day. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for sitting with me.
Jill, if you don't mind, you were talking about. I want to take you off spotlight because that bugs me too.
Oh,
Um,
let me stop sharing maybe so we can also see faces.
all
Is that
right.
better?
I wanted to ask you about the weaponizing of that term and of the
Yeah.
term care. If you could speak a little bit to that, because I know a lot of us are trying to find our way back into the workforce. Maybe we've taken some time off, to take care of ourselves. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with when I was working for the EAP, so our EAP here is managed under our Department of Mental Health, who I worked for, but it oversees anybody that takes a state of Oklahoma paycheck. So the people that work in prisons, people that build a road, all of them were able to call our office. EAP is Employee Assistance Program. I am notorious for using alphabet soup and not explaining it. I'm so sorry. But it is the program. If you work for the state, you are entitled to, you can get behavioral health support. We had some free counselors that could work with folks in the short term. I would look at folks' insurance plans and find providers, mental health providers that took their plan for them. Um, but you kept seeing, and as a behavioral health worker, there's lots of trainings and stuff I have to attend. There was all this stuff on self-care, and the work was promoting just self-care. Like everybody take care of yourselves. Everybody make sure to get, good hours of sleep. And it's like nobody's sleeping. Nobody was sleeping in 2020. No one was sleeping. All I did was eat gummy bears. That's like all I did for like I would say a good 9 months. Just ate candy, crying on the closet floor. That was pretty much what I did between work tasks. So like there was no like healthy balanced diet. Like it was survival mode all the way. Like literally for all of us. Um but they kept saying this self-care, self-care, and I started looking and I was like, well, they don't seem to like people calling in sick. I mean, a lot of people were calling in sick naturally. I had a team that had lost a coworker to the virus and wanted me to come in and do a grief debriefing and, kind of like how do we get everybody like feeling better and back to work? And I was like, you don't. You accept right now. Like you're going to have to accept that 75% capacity is about the best you're going to get from folks right now on a good day. Like if we can accept that everyone's overwhelmed, that people are in struggle, how would your priorities change as an agency? What do you need to scrape off that plate that isn't going to get done? Because if you keep pushing for 100%, people are going to quit or get sick, and then they're not in office at all. So that, but it was that term of they thought, well, if we just eat more vegetables and do all this, like we'll be able to stay up at capacity. And I'm like, sometimes that's just not going to happen. That bandwidth, right? I felt bad for them because their faces all fell, but I'm like, but let's look at what we've got. Let's really like face the challenge. Let's aim for let's aim for a C today. We don't have to, we can't get A's right now. It's probably not possible. Let's aim for a C. It does help to, shift a team's perspective. Okay, we got to figure out what's the have tos and what we can maybe put off till tomorrow or just let go of, because it's simply not going to happen. But yeah, you did hear that term, and I still hear it now. Like everybody's wanting like self care because workers are still tired after all of that. And it's like, how do we get workers more energized? And I'm like, you might, but pushing this stuff doesn't work. I hope that answers your question. I'm rambling.
No, that was great.
My
Thank you
tea's
so
kicking in.
much. Um, I'm gonna try to say your name, and I hope I don't butcher it. Toyn?
Yeah, that's it. You got Yep. Way to
Hi,
go.
I've been
Thanks.
seeing you popping up lately. Welcome.
Yeah, no, I just found out about the community a couple weeks back, and it was another dude that I knew in another, uh, another peer support thing, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, and he mentioned he bounced, but anyway, I mean, on point, on topic. One of the things, and I put a couple things in chat there, Jill, like as you were, because if I don't do that, I'll forget all the good points you're making. But sometimes, and I liked your question too, Sue, like something about the weaponization of self care. Did I hear that correctly? Is
Yeah,
that what
yeah.
you asked? Right. No. This is part of the LifeRing community that I dig because these questions are great. They're like, it's a really kind of so on point. Then I like to raise, or for my own personal recovery, the context. I think sometimes anxiety and worry are like overly targeted as the get rid ofs. Like and therefore, for my personal recovery, I provoke the question: well, what is adaptive, healthy for my values towards worry and recovery, such as finding meaningful work, developing a significant other, communicating in a way that I can, accordance to my values, in order to engender those probabilities to work out in my life, so I have an outcome picture for my personal recovery that I live into. And yes, I'm worried that I won't recover. I am. But to me, that's health because that'll keep me not over vigilant, but somewhat vigilant. So I guess in context of some of I like the compassion fatigue and that weaponization of self care. But I guess I just figured I'd come to the meeting today because there'd be a lot of people that have been around LifeRing for a minute, and all of us in any group I've been to influence each other and bring the latest stuff that we're all learning for our mental health together, and it kind of creates this nexus and potential zenith of what's next. So that's why I'm in this meeting to kind of pop my head around. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that about this, even though it's a personal pathway to recovery, and I love that about the adaptive levels. Like what's does LifeRing ask itself or promote asking the questions? What is what is one's personal values towards adaptive worry and stress? And again, it's just I could go on like you too, Jill, and keep having little recovery conundrums that I think are unpacking. And I put in chat too, I manage effectively right now borderline personality disorder, and I have professional help for OCD. So I'm always transparent because these are a safe place. Work on that.
Mhm.
By the grace of fate or the unknown, ambiguous, whatever you want to call it, I do get better. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I'll let Sue answer. I do want to commend you too on being in sustained recovery with some tough diagnoses too. I know those get a lot of flack in our community. So yeah, I will remind everybody that I am trained in diagnosis. I don't diagnose people. I'm not a therapist. I decided to stop that journey on my path. But, all diagnoses pretty much can be labeled and changed to being in remission and eventually even dropped off of your chart. So just saying that, if you get a diagnosis that seems scary, if you decide to go into that path, and that's not for everybody. But like I had it was temporary diagnosis of bipolar 2, and that's not anywhere on my chart anymore. I mean, sometimes you don't even know what's going on, but like there's always room for improvement. There's always ways to, get into recovery with different things, even diagnoses that feel very heavy. And sometimes some of those can. So thank you for sharing, Toyin. I know I commend you. Because I know that some of those can be really tough. So that's amazing. Sue, I'll let you answer the question about the LifeRing philosophy because that's not my expertise, and I don't want to speak for y'all.
To be honest, I'm going to be straight up with you, Toyin. I didn't understand your question, and it's probably because I don't have much of a background in this area of business. So if you wouldn't mind repeating it, we can open it up to the crew. Toyin?
Oh, sure. No, I mean or anybody else wants to chime in. Yeah, I would just advocate because I attend several. Okay, but the first point I'm making that's salient here, just I'm a guy recovering. That's all I am. I mean, I'm I'm not anybody special, So I don't. But in the name of recovery is my inspirational courage here. So that's my aegis. That's where I'm coming from. And secondly, to the degree that I do think that and I attend several other types of recovery, both live and online. So that's out there because in the order of inspiration and for the provocation of better recovery and better mental health in general, for how it's reaching any human being today, especially the internet, Zoom meetings, and the proliferation of them and all these platforms. That's my reason for asking us all to ask ourselves. And Sue, since you're here and maybe being executive director, I thought, if it's kind of wet your ears a little bit, then it gets tossed around with some level of, okay, I've heard about that. My concern, I guess, where I'm raising it, does LifeRing, and I read a little bit, but not all of the website, like the context in its personal pathway to recovery. I definitely respect the abstinence based nature that it promotes. But like when anybody's coming to a recovery meeting and they're working whatever they're doing, whether it's their outside help or their tools, like does LifeRing have in it any sort of future kind of, we'll have some tools, we'll have some deeper suggestions, we'll have a little added guideline. I'm just curious. It's strictly an open-ended provocatory question.
Again, Toyin, my confusion is what kind of tools are you looking for? LifeRing is resplendent with tools. We have we're opening so many new focus meetings that are like, one specifically is tool time. We have co-occurring disorder meetings. We have, specific meetings for commonalities. Again, as we evolve, we want to hear from our crew about what they're interested in. Is there a specific that you're asking for here?
Well, I mean, I just know I'm very it's just if we're recovery meeting together. I mean, I'm just personally personal values orientation is big to me. That's just my own personal thing, because if I don't have my own values to base my decisions off of, I just kind of waffle. And I'm not saying this in the interest of shooting on the program. That's like that great comment there in chat. I won't shoot on you. I won't shoot on myself. But no, I'm just at other programs have something called hierarchy of values. Other things have got where they invite the question. So why are you even? What's your value that's driving you towards something? And I just say that only. That's like is there going to be a values tool? Personal values. Is that going to be called the tool? I'll just point blank. I'll brainstorm that right now. Sue, will there be a tool called personal values?
Personal values. You know what? That's a great question. We actually have several people in here who developed the platform. I'm looking at Byron right now because he's getting itchy over there. Do you want to jump in on that one, Byron? Personal values. Okay. LifeRing is all about you and building out your own personal recovery plan. And if you feel like you want to broaden your values, that's great. We support that. We can, again, this is something that we look at, when we're talking in our own groups, we can explore this with one another, whether or not we have something that's specific to that. Like that's kind of leaning into a 12-step, in my opinion. But I might be reading your question wrong, Toyin, and I don't want to do that. And I certainly don't want to discourage you from continuing to come to LifeRing meetings. Again, like there are certain values that I bring to the table that may be different from, say, what Michael's bringing to the table. But that doesn't mean we can't have exchanges about that. Does LifeRing have any fundamental, this has to be this way? Not per se. We have certain values, like, we believe that abstinence is the right way to go. We don't shun other people who find that there are other avenues that they want to go down, right? There's a lot of talk about moderation right now. I think everybody in this room wishes we could moderate. However, I think most of us have found out we can't. But again, as far as values go, that would be a judgment call, and I don't think that's where we want to go. Anna, you want to jump in on that? Hello, good morning.
I would. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm in Austin, Texas. I've been sober. It'll be 5 years in August, and LifeRing has been a huge part of what's helped me. So welcome, Toyne. I'm glad you found us. Hope I said your name right. Yeah, so speaking for myself, the reason LifeRing felt right to me was I value and I knew that the only way I was going to get sober was if I got sober. So of their three S's, sobriety, secularity, and being self-empowered or self-directed, that self-empowerment piece was very important. I knew I had it within me because I'd been sober at times of my life. I knew it was there. Finding a way to strengthen that sober voice and turn down the volume of the addict voice is what I get from LifeRing. It's being with a community of people who understand that. We're all so different. What works for me may or may not work for you. The one thing that we all have is the goal of remaining sober and being able to share our experiences, good and bad, what works, what doesn't work. That's the real power. So I guess if that were a value, that idea of that self-empowerment, that you can do this, and taking inspiration from others I identify with and seeing that they are doing it, gave me the hope I needed, the hope I'd lost, that I could do that too.
Thank you, Anna. I really appreciate that, and congratulations. Robert, how about you? Did you want to bring
Yeah,
something
I
forth?
just want to say Anna said it perfectly. Three things that LifeRing does, and only three things. There's been many people in the past that wanted to expand our philosophy or how we do things and stuff like that. Sobriety, secularity, self-empowerment. How you employ those, sobriety is pretty explicit. The three principles, that's what we stand for. That's what the meetings stand for. And we do meetings. We don't do other outreach type activities. We do dual recovery, like Sue said. We do other type of meetings. We do what the convener and the individuals, participants in the meeting want to engage in. I've been in the past, I've gotten emails about sex therapy and gambling and all that. We're open to, if it's a dual recovery situation where you have, you want to go into recovery, you have substance abuse, and you want to explore these other things that are affecting your life, that's perfectly valid. But we are primarily a recovery organization, and that's where we function. We don't go into you need to go to SMART to find other things where they particularly talk about other mental health issues, at least at this point. And SMART also does maintenance recovery, stuff like that. They've opened up themselves to other types of exploring other methods of recovery that is not abstinent based, and that's valid. That's perfectly valid, but not in LifeRing. And that's what we've maintained over the years.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. And Lisa, good morning.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill. I related to so much of what you said. the last couple of years, I've gone through my mother being ill, taking care of her, dealing with a difficult brother. It has been the most challenging period I've had since I got sober, decades ago. And so much of what you said, I am sitting here practically in tears because I just struggled with myself all throughout this it's okay. You're not going to be the 100% that you were 6 months before all this started. You're doing the best you can, and that's okay for now. And all the, in the I really liked what you said about not weaponizing self-care. I feel like I don't like journaling. I don't want to journal. Stop telling me that I'm not recovering correctly if I don't journal. I managed to get 20-some years sober without journaling. So, but I really appreciate the true self-care and self-love. And when on that slide I saw, you're not doing it so you can care for others. You're doing it just for yourself because you deserve it, kind of thing. I know I'm wildly paraphrasing. My brain just sort of freaked out. What do you mean? Like, that's how I justify it. Like, that was such I'm really going to ponder that. And I will close with this because I think there's a question or two in chat and the questions, but I convene a weekly topic meeting. Usually it's on Saturdays. Somebody else is convening for me. And I've written down several potential topics for upcoming meetings, which I'm sure everyone will enjoy. So thank you so much.
Oh,
And I am
thank
crying.
you.
I am crying, and I don't
That's
cry in
okay.
public, and I'm crying.
My therapist
And
says
I
the
almost
tears
turned
come
my
when you need
camera
them.
off.
I was
almost
crying because
so
I was
nobody could
laughing
see it.
so hard about the cats eating my face. That was my favorite part.
Yeah, that's my brain.
I want to resonate what Lisa said, and that, yeah, we're so grateful. But I also there was a question that was brought forward by one of our conveners, and it is Laura brought this question forward. Do you work with organizations that have a fair amount of burnout? And can you say more about what you recommend? And I think I would love to hear that right about now. So I'm going to piggyback on Laura's question there. Jill, if you don't mind listening that.
I actually pulled a bunch of these slides from my burnout and caring for helpers slide. Like that's one of my favorite things. And I did a lot of that during the pandemic where I got started. And so a lot of stuff I do is for like, not we don't want to be burned out as workers. It's like, you're probably a little burned out. Like, let's start there. Like, let's just start with, you may have some exceptions where folks are thriving, but in general, with threats of funding cuts, increase of the population that needs support, fewer workers in the field, can't pay rent, like, you're probably burned out as an agency. So starting there, listen, but yeah, that's a big piece of what I like to talk and share with folks about, because I've seen it all over the place.
Thank you, Jill. And maybe we can have you back to do a couple of
Sure.
spotlight salons that we offer, or we used to
Sure.
offer. I love your style. And but Becky had her hand up, and I don't want to miss a chance to have her share with you. Becky, what's your question?
Good morning, everybody. I don't have a question. I just wanted to piggyback off of the journaling thing. For me, journaling was a huge part of my recovery. I have PTSD as well, with flashbacks and nightmares, and having to write down on paper the thoughts in my head, the things that were happening to me, getting it out of my head, out of my body, was really, really helpful for me. And in my opinion, everybody's journey is different. And journaling was just a really huge part for me to really look at the things that I was trying to deal with and cope with and get past. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I relate to both of you, actually, because it's like I've had every therapist, friend, everybody like sit down and journal, and I fight it like a little brat. Like, I'm like, I don't want to sit down and do it. I get so grumpy about it, but like I have had times where taking this jumble and cycle of things that's spinning and spinning and spinning and laying it out in a row, even if it's ugly, chicken scratch or whatever, um, sometimes just seeing it on paper. And then if I did it, which I don't do consistently, but going back and looking at where I was the entry or two at least before. And it's like, oh, I have changed. Because sometimes you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to get better. I'm always going to be like this. I'm never going to change. I'm always going to be dysfunctional Jill or whatever. And then I can go back and be like, oh, I have grown a little bit. So I see the value in it. And yes, I really struggle with actually, I buy so many, like, look at this beauty. I haven't written a thing in it and it's so pretty. And I bought it and I haven't touched it. Like, so I'm like, I'm somewhere between you two. But I get it. Like there is a magic in it sometimes for some folks. But yeah, it's that sitting down and it hurt. Even holding a pen hurts my hand. I'm just a brat about it. I can't help it. But I will maybe make an attempt in the near future. No promises, but it can be a huge tool, a helper for sure.
That's great. That's a great answer, Jill. And I got to be honest, I have gorgeous journals I don't go near. I get these guys because I know I'm a scratch. My handwriting's horrible. So I don't want to put it in a nice journal because I'd embarrass the journal. Jackie, nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm kind of crosstalk between Jill and Becky because Jill mentioned always feeling like she wasn't perfect enough and she couldn't do things that pleased her family and so forth and her friends and her own expectations. And Becky talked about having PTSD. I also have complex PTSD. But the greatest thing about writing it down for me that has been just truly amazing is that I beat myself. I was raped at 15 and I beat myself up for all those years between then and 30 because everything I did, well, even 27, I was told I was going to die within 2 months. My colitis and bleeding stomach ulcers were so severe and I was going to end up leaving my 2 kids with no mom. And I thought I was always beating myself up about that. You know, what did you do between 15 and 27 that was so abnormal and so unusual and on and on and on. And then recently I read studies that my mind wasn't even mature till 24. Holy shit. It's a good thing I wrote it down.
Thank you, Jackie. And it's a pleasure to meet you. For those of you who don't know, Jackie will be joining us as a convener. She's already committed, and we're very excited about that. Jackie, thank you. Cedric.
Hi, hello. Thank you, Jill, for coming out. Really good information. So many jewels and gems. I just had a question and then probably just, just a question about journaling. And actually a statement too first. I started journaling probably about 3, 4 years ago. And it was one of the best things that I could do for my recovery because I had been going through so much inwardly and I didn't know how to express it because of my childhood and the way that I was raised. I was raised in an environment with an abusive dad, so I didn't have the opportunity to be able to express myself. And I kind of carried that over into adulthood. You really never knew what was on my mind because I didn't know how to really express it. And so when I went to therapy, suggested that I journal. And like it took me a little while to get into doing that because I didn't know how to express it even on paper. But anyway, long story short, I've been journaling for like 3, 4 years. It's one of the best things that I could have ever done for myself and my recovery. But for those people that do decide to journal, I know what I went through going back into childhood trauma. It did bring up a lot of bad feelings, and I felt like really weird for a long time. Are you able to like maybe talk about that and what that is and what people may expect when they go back to talk about their childhood trauma?
That's a great question. Thank you, Cedric.
I am so sorry, Cedric. My thing was cutting out. Would you mind repeating the question? I have the worst internet.
No, yeah, I'm just gonna, in a nutshell. So when I started journaling, it really helped me to get out the things that I was suppressing since childhood. Not sure what you heard, what you didn't hear. I was raised
Yeah.
in an abusive home. Okay,
Yeah.
and so when I started journaling, I noticed that I started feeling very uncomfortable, like even after the fact of not like just going on with my day after I put in my entry, having to go back and relive those moments as a child. And that was something my therapist told me to expect that, to feel like icky, like, and it
Yeah.
was like to the point where I didn't want to journal anymore because it was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. But I had to go through like that process to, I guess she says, like purging your brain or like releasing all that negative inner conflict and turmoil. So anyway, for people who do decide to journal, because I wasn't caught off guard, but I was kind of caught off guard by the uncomfortable feeling. Can you kind of like just go elaborate maybe to what people may expect when they start to journal, maybe on previous trauma?
Well, so I'm not 100% expert, but my guess would be what I do know about trauma is it is so stored in the body, and in parts of our, we call it lizard brain, our primal survival brain. So I have some friends who are combat veterans, and I was presenting one time with one of them, to the VA here, and there's a very tall room, and they started to lower a screen behind us, to do a projector show, and they started to lower it down, and my friend almost dove under the table, having something moving overhead, and he's like, he started breaking out in a sweat, and he talked to me after. He was like, I don't even know what my body just did it, because the body, stores the memory of the trauma, and a lot of times it sends the brain offline, your logic brain, and just reacts to get you to safety. So yeah, I would think going in, again, this is my guess, going into those things and reactivating those memories and thinking about the detail, because the memories, just as with mindfulness and the grounding and the things that we do to be mindful of how we feel and stuff, your body remembers the way it felt in those moments of trauma, and it can replay, like it's like a hit record, and then it can hit play when it's activated, and it's like you start getting some like sweating or tunnel vision, or your pulse can speed up, all of those things. It sounds like you're getting activated as you're doing that writing, for sure. Some people use the term trigger. I prefer activated. Um, but it may be that you talk with your therapist and come up with some ideas of how that process can feel safer. Yeah, Cindy cited Bessel van der Kolk, who's like kind of the leader in trauma in the body. The book "The Body Keeps the Score" is like huge in our field. Um, but kind of learning, because your body's signaling, it's thinking about this, and it's signaling I'm not safe. So I would maybe work with your therapist to find ways to make that process feel safer. I don't know what that would be. If there's like a ritual of like a weighted blanket, or having someone nearby you in the room, even if you're not talking, something that helps create that safety as you process through it. Maybe, again, like I'm not a licensed therapist, so I don't want to give advice, but that's from what I've read and studied and what I understand about trauma, and what I'm working through with my own, starting to learn the signals my body tells me as I'm getting activated when memories pop, because it's a different form of memory than that conscious one sometimes, even where you can sit back and remember a day in school. It's like it signals body reactions of that stress response. Yeah, Jackie shared the book cover. But it may be something worth digging into and just getting curious. Like, for me, education is my biggest recovery tool. Like, if I don't understand what the hell's going on with me, I'm going to geek out and learn all I can and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm just doing as I'm designed to do. And that can kind of help me not feel like I'm so, like I'm crazy, or, I don't like the C word, but, um, yeah. And it looks like some folks are coming in with some shares too.
Can
But
I
yeah,
go
like
and just do a
yeah,
little talk with Cedric? Cedric,
yeah, you do have experience. Yeah.
when I was journaling, I often would end up in tears, because I was actually facing things I hadn't actually been facing because I had been drinking. And so now I was actually letting what I was actually dealing with out. And so often journaling for myself resulted in tears. And like I said earlier, everybody's journey is different. And whatever things that work and help you, do those things. That's, what works for me may not work for, Joe over there, but whatever works for you, that's what you need to do for yourself. So I just wanted to say, yeah, journaling is not exactly fun either. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I started journaling maybe like 3 years ago. So a lot of those feelings have subsided. I'm in a better place because of journaling. So I do encourage people to do that. I just, for those who are going into it, first and foremost, just giving them kind of like the heads up as to what to expect. Because, like you said, it's more than a head thing, it's a body thing too. You know, your body's storing all that trauma and it comes out differently, I'm sure, for everybody. But just what I went through, almost kind of like PTSD, for lack of a better word. So yeah, well, thank you for elaborating on that. Thank you.
Sue, you're muted.
I bet you could read that. I was just saying such lovely things about each and every one of you and how excited I was. Now, I first wanted to say thank you so much to Jill for not just being here and giving us a wonderful keynote presentation, but for sparking such great conversation. And you know, we had you booked to 10:15, and I would love it if you'd stay and play with us. But if you have things to do, we're going to move into the into our what we're doing right now, and that's an open forum. But I hope that you can see from the enthusiasm of the conversation and the engaged exchanges that we're having that your keynote address was inspiring and thought provoking. So thank you so very much. And
Thank
I
you.
I personally adore you. I've had every time I've had a
Same.
chance to engage with you, it's been an incredible treat for me. And I thank you. And I know that I'm not the only one taking away some real good and excellent thought from you, Jill. So thank you.
I appreciate it. I will probably step out and let you guys have this space for LifeRing purposes and could just be totally lost in the culture of it, you know, since I'm kind of an outsider. I will step out. But again, like Sue's got my email. You are all welcome to it. If you have any questions or thoughts or want to check in on me and see, are you journaling yet, Jill? You're welcome to hold me accountable too if you want to. But thank you so much. This is such a special group, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jill. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much. And I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, same.
Love to
Y'all
come
have a
out.
good day. Have a great conference.
Thank you.